Hello, everybody, and welcome to Shaman Sister Sessions. I am Michelle Hawk. I'm here with my Shaman sister, Katherine Bird. And today, this is episode 130, Blockages and Resistances to Channeling and Mediumship. Both Kat and I are very experienced and cultivated mediums, and we both mentor and train people. Kat has an awesome course in mediumship called Open Your Channel, and we support people in developing their mediumship practice. So we have a lot of experience in what those blockages are and how we can overcome them, and best tools and practices so that you can safely and sustainably open your channel and cultivate your mediumship practice. So let's jump in. Kat, how are you doing?
Amazing. I'm really good. I had
Yay.
a little like sickness for, the cough for a couple weeks, and now I feel like I'm 100%. And I actually just did combo. I didn't mention that I did combo Saturday, 2 days ago. So I've got my
Mm-hmm.
my little dots of my Amazonian frog medicine,
Mm-hmm.
and which is really helps the immune system. So it felt like it was really the right time to sit again, and I feel really grateful for that medicine, um, and grateful even in that space, just like jumping into mediumship and being in that space and being able to access my guides and to be in mediumship for the purpose of my own personal healing. So to be able to work with spirits to help me to move things that weren't serving me, and to
Mm-hmm.
be in that deep spiritual practice and connection, prayer, offerings, and relationship with the spirits that I work with for the purpose of my own healing and transformation. And I think just sometimes we think that, oh, I'm channeling or mediumship or whatever. It is this thing that we like performatively do. I think that's something that people are really scared of, that, oh my gosh, if I do this, I'm going to have to do it for other people. People are going to see me. I think this is probably like number one, hands down, the most terrifying thing. People are going to see me channel and I look like a freak. It's so weird. Or what if it doesn't work? Like, people are going to see this. And that idea of like someone else witnessing you in what really is a very open, vulnerable space, that can be really terrifying. But our channeling work, like what we're here doing in these connections, so often it is about our own personal practice. It's about our own personal growth and development and healing and things. So I think sometimes that's something that people forget even.
Mm-hmm.
like like
Yeah.
why am I doing this? Why am I called to this? And the immediate assumption is, I'm gonna have to like charge people money for this. I'm gonna have to do it in public. I'm gonna have to, like, I don't know, put out a Facebook invite to people to come to my channeling, event. And that is incredibly scary. So
That's so funny. I'm curious, are these people like that's so not my experience of that. And so it's interesting to me that that's how people are approaching this, is immediately looking to like the external facing aspect of that. And I'm wondering, like, is the population a little skewed because people are coming to you for mentorship in their healership? And there's no right or wrong answer. I'm just curious. But like what you're saying, I guess I would say, if you're not having most of your channeling and mediumship practice happening for your personal practice, you're probably not doing it right. Because if you're only doing channeling and mediumship, if that's the only time that you're opening up the channel is in the context of other people, then that to me feels like a little bit backwards. And so I would say start with the channeling and mediumship in your internal process, your personal practice, because that's where you're going to cultivate the relationships, cultivating the personal, intimate, functional relationships with the spirits that you're having these collaborative experiences with, so that you know those frequencies very well, so they're able to anchor those into a sustainable personal practice. And then if that practice, if you are guided to present that practice externally, and that's how it's organically manifesting, then to translate that to an external experience. Gosh, that's so funny. I
Well,
mean, I guess I'm not
I
totally
think there's
surprised.
I think there's a couple of pieces there, right? Where
Yeah.
there is where you're getting that information, you're getting the guidance, and you're like, oh, um, I am receiving that. I know that I am a channel and I'm supposed to like be an offering or service or somehow be doing this with people. So you know
Thank you for
that
clarifying.
you
That
know
was
that
not.
within, and
Yeah.
so then you don't even want to do it, you don't even want to train, you don't even want to practice, because you know that it's going to lead you to that place.
Hmm. Thank you for clarifying. That was not immediately clear. And what you initially said, I was like, oh gosh, people are immediately like, how do I monetize this? That's not okay. Um, right. Okay. That makes more sense. All right. So the spirits who are working through you are asking for you to cultivate this as an externally facing offering, and the intimidation and the resistance of that. That makes more sense.
Yeah. um
Yeah.
so I mean, so that was just what it was on top of my mind, just in this
Hmm.
experience for myself of
Hmm.
um how incredibly nurturing and supportive that this practice is, and that I think that sometimes we kind of get lost in that, like what the external experience of it is, or what people are going to think about it, or if we're going to have to share it, like if I develop this, will I have to share it, or what are other people's responses going to be, or all of that, sort of the external experience around this very sacred personal practice,
Hmm.
I think is can sometimes keep us from exploring things that we might, otherwise be really like, yes, that's part of my, that's part of me.
Hmm.
That's just part of who I am.
Hmm. Yeah. I think even before that though, there's, I look at the fears that I see people voice around channeling and mediumship. One of the biggest fears is, how do I know that the beings that I'm channeling or having mediumship experiences with, how do I know that they're telling me the truth? How do I know that they're actually divine beings and they're not demons? How, and particularly if the person has any religious conditioning, how do I know that I'm not going to suffer in the fate of my eternal soul for connecting with these beings, when all of my religious conditioning and upbringing has told me that if I'm hearing voices, then then it's the devil speaking to me, because only God is the one source of divine messages, etc. So so there's some pieces there, and that I think people have blockages and resistance to, and for particularly, I know we have a lot of let's just say people who come from different religious backgrounds, or the like, um, what's the word I want to say? Like, I know I've talked with a lot of people, and I have various clients and people who I know who are coming from, they're like recovering evangelical Christian backgrounds. And there's a very real fear in that. There's a very vulnerable, okay, if I do believe that the messages that I'm receiving are, I feel called to believe them. And also there's that fear.
Yeah.
So, I get it. That is a real
Yeah.
fear. And also, in terms of training people about the healthy discernment of who you're working with, that's a really important piece, because we cannot automatically assume that the only beings that we're receiving messages from, or receiving information from, are aligned with the light and love. We must also cultivate our discernment and cultivate our practices and our prayers to make sure that that's the case, so that we can open our channel in a safe way.
Yeah. And work on ourselves. Like I always come back to being a healer, being a channel, it is always about self work, self cultivation, and transforming yourself so that what you are transmitting is of the highest nature. But
Mhm.
when you're talking about this, it's making me in this consideration around the connection really between um, uh, like a very all encompassing, heightened religious upbringing, and this lack of ability to discern. Sort of, there is so much programming, so much actually overriding the body, especially like in a lot of um, uh, a lot of these systems, there is the awareness, there are the teachings of your body is inherently evil and bad and not to be trusted. And the earth is not to be trusted. It is not of God, of this higher realm. It is something else. That things that you experience where there is your system, your body, your intuition is telling you something, or is holding up a boundary that you need in order to feel safe. And you are taught to override that over and over and over again, and to not listen to your needs, to override yourself. Sometimes in religions and different communities, there is almost like a systematic breakdown of that discernment principle within self, the sovereignty of self, the ability to understand consent within yourself. Even using things like, I've had clients who are like, yeah, I mean, we were in church 5 days a week, and we would be sometimes at church at midnight, and we would be in these really long prayer experiences where you weren't allowed to go to the bathroom, and you weren't allowed to eat, and you weren't allowed to drink water, and all of these things that we know break down your will, break down your ability to discern, your ability to make decisions for yourself. And then, when you're coming out of those experiences, there's not only the questioning of, has what I've been taught, is that helping or serving or beneficial for me? Is that what I really believe? Is that what I'm carrying forward? And also, how has my body, my nervous system, been discounted so much over and over and over again? My voice coming forward, being able to speak my truth, how much has that been repressed and harmed, so that I don't have a great relationship with, I can recognize what is true for me, and I can feel my body, and I can communicate these
Mhm.
pieces around, how do we find discernment within these realms? So it's interesting that it both sets people up to have a certain set of beliefs, but also sets up their body, nervous system, intuitive awareness to be congruent with those beliefs.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, all of that also exists within the secular community as well. So let's, just kind of substitute a few words there. And we live in a society that exists on the supremacy of logic and intellect. And so all of those same principles that you were just saying, Kat, they exist even outside, even if you didn't have a strict fundamentalist religious upbringing, living in a society that kind of glorifies, okay, what is the evidence for that? What is the, again, the frontal lobe based human elitism, and then kind of putting on a lower pedestal the wisdom of the body and the wisdom of the earth. It's really all the same things, just in a non-religious. But all that fundamentalism still exists in secular
You're getting it
context
from
as
every
well. Yeah,
direction, no matter what.
absolutely.
I think this comes up when maybe this question that people often have is like, how do I know?
Yep.
Right?
That's
Like,
a big question. How do I
I
know?
need to know. I need certainty. I need proof. I need I need this to be a very proven science somehow.
Mm-hmm.
And uh I think, and sometimes you just don't know. Right? There's a lot of mystery in the
The
mystery.
There's a also like the subtlety of it, because a big question that I hear, and honestly, this was a question that I was asking myself, like, near the beginning of my mediumship journey. How do
Yeah.
I know the difference between my thoughts and my imagination and messages and intuition and mediumship practice? That's a question that I hear from a lot of people.
Yeah. And it's a
And
good question to ask. This is a good
yeah.
question to have, right? It's good to be in
Mhm.
that inquiry, but also it is something that can hold you back. And I think we all think that thought, right?
Yeah, I think, and particularly, the things that really supported me in that particular question were practice over and over and over again, because it's a subtle thing. Because initially, and I like to tell people, your imagination is your intuition in disguise. Because it is, imagination, the imaginal realms are actually a really helpful door to go in through as we're opening up our intuition and our channeling and mediumship process. So please don't ever discount your imagination. It's actually, where do we think our ideas come from? Where do we think people download songs from? Like, okay, you might be making it up, but you might be receiving it as a transmission from one of the muses or divine beings, for example. And so I think the getting to know the difference between what is just my thoughts, and also, that's even another question, is, well, where do our thoughts come from? And, are we accessing wisdom of our own higher selves? Are we in mediumship with our highest self, our own self and spirit form? In which case one might argue, well, these are deeply philosophical questions we're asking here, but what is the nature of thought, and what is the difference between thought of me, myself, as human embodied earthwalk Michelle Hawk, versus what are transmissions and messages and information from my highest self as a soul, versus what is coming in from another spirit who is working through me? And getting to know the difference between those different voices takes practice, takes attunement to subtlety, takes regulation and stability. So
Mm-hmm.
even like Kat, you're talking about all of the desensitization processes. Again, these exist beyond the religious fundamentalist conditioning they're in. Are being bombarded with screens and electricity and living in concrete worlds and not putting our bare feet on the earth and eating processed foods. Like, we're living in a world that conditions us to be desensitized to subtlety in every regard.
Mm-hmm.
And that desensitization makes it a lot harder for us to tell the difference between these very subtle frequencies. And so by attuning to subtlety in the body, like Kat, like you were saying, the attuning to the wisdom of the body, attuning to the wisdom of the heart and the subtle realms and the different flavors of energy, that's one of the biggest and most important tools that we can use to cultivate our mediumship practice, to be able to tell the how do I know. That's how we start
Mm-hmm.
to begin to answer that question. How do I know?
Yeah. And it's not something
Yeah.
like, I think a lot of times people ask that question and they come with the question as if we can say, you're going to, from this one conversation, now know, like now you'll
Mm-hmm.
know. But what you're saying is no, it actually is, it is practice, it is a
Mm-hmm.
cultivation, it is consistency, it is learning yourself and your tool, right? Because in mediumship, you are the medium. So the the main thing is that you are learning like an instrument the medium that you are. And you sometimes we come with these questions and we think, oh, well, can you just teach me how to play the violin concerto in, you know, and I haven't actually even learned the scales. And so we're in this relationship with the medium, and we are the medium. And then we're in relationship with how those subtle sounds that come through every string and every shift of the finger, those are the subtle messages and the information that's coming through that we're then hearing and we're interpreting as, oh, this is what this song is about. You can
Mm-hmm.
hear this beautiful song, and then you have to even have this experience of, oh, this song, it's invoking this feeling and I understand it and this is what it means. And so that is this incredible full rich journey that we're having as the medium, which isn't just like, oh well, now I know I know what it is because you told me the answer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, if you ever come to study mediumship with Kat or with me, there's a whole lot of that type of answers, and it's in your best interest. I'll say another blockage or resistance that people have that I see very commonly is the discomfort, like the physical and emotional and energetic discomfort of bringing spirits into the body or interacting with spirits. And let's be real, it can be very uncomfortable. I'm not going to sugarcoat that. Like having, and particularly when working in incorporation mediumship, which is the process of bringing spirits into the body to incorporate, like corporis or corporeal is the body. It's not always uncomfortable, but it can be very uncomfortable. And that's due to a variety of reasons, largely our own internal dysregulation, blockages, trauma, imbalance, chemical stuff, hormonal stuff, areas where we have tension or are holding trauma patterns or hidden trapped emotion. All of those interferences can be uncomfortable when we're bringing in a spirit, particularly if that spirit is working on us as and let's acknowledge, Kat, like this, you were saying this kind of at the very beginning, we as the mediums are the first beneficiaries of interacting with a spirit. As a medium, we are the first to receive from the presence of a spirit that is coming in for the purpose of guidance and illumination and healing. We are the first ones to receive that. And then what we are transmitting out and sharing out is the illumination that comes from embodying and anchoring in those frequencies of healing. And so whenever we're working with a divine being who is coming in for the purpose of healing, guidance, illumination, messages, wisdom, etc., it can butt up against things in us that are either not in alignment with that or not ready to receive that, or holding on to old trauma pattern stuff, old shadow stuff. And the process of the healing of that can be very physically uncomfortable. And
Yeah.
I think people feel intimidated by that. People feel afraid of it. And I understand because I've been there and I have had experiences of a spirit coming in and being either incredibly nauseated or having like a lot of stiffness and pain or heat, like your temperature, body temperature changes, or strong sensation, retching, like you're going to puke your brains out, coughing, extreme and noises coming through. Like it's a very strong sensation, or it can be a very strong sensation, and that can
Yeah.
be very off-putting.
Yeah. I mean, some people have even described, oh, I felt like I was having a heart attack. I felt like, and when you have a strong sensation, you translate that sensation to make meaning around it. And so some of this about learning how to, I think I think for that, there's learning how to cultivate and hold energy, like learning how to work with your energy body and how to cultivate and hold energy strongly, like how to bring a lot of energy into your system and intentionally focused hold it, and to be as comfortable as with that as possible, and to have that as a practice, which is why I always teach energy practices with everything. Like you can't just, I don't think you should be learning channeling without learning proper energy practices. And so that helps you to go, oh, I can hold this and I'm okay. But then also this practice of surrender, the practice of, oh, I am safe, I am okay, I am open, I am present, which sometimes requires other deeper healing work of nervous system repair and regulation, and being able to feel sensations and be in your body. There are a lot of people who are not in their bodies who are trying to do channeling. You really need to learn how to be in your body, because that's going to help you be able to interact with beings and not have something negative happen to you, actually.
Yep.
Um, but yeah, it this idea of bringing something into your body is, yeah, it can be really, that can be really intense. I'll also say that I don't teach incorporated channeling first off. You know, I teach conscious channeling. I don't teach trance channeling immediately to people because I want to know where they're at and they've got their practices and they're solid enough to be able to manage that. You know, if somebody's coming and they're having that already happen, then I can help them with stabilizing it and exploring it.
Mhm.
But I believe that learning how to be a conscious channel and medium is really important, um, and developing your skill set to advance over time so that you do feel okay going to the next piece and like,
Yeah.
oh, okay, yeah, this is good, and now the next piece, and now the next piece. Like, you don't have to go into this big intense thing immediately.
Yeah. Nor do we recommend that necessarily.
Yeah. I mean,
But if it's already happening to you,
sometimes it's
yeah.
what happens. It's what happened to
Yeah.
me. So
Mhm.
that's why I'm like, okay, if that's what's happening, let's work with it and let's understand it. I think,
Mhm.
Michelle, you were just speaking the other day about someone coming with kind of their game tape of them doing some channeling work, and you were sort of
Yeah.
unpacking it for them, which I
Yeah,
thought
it was
was great.
awesome actually. So I have a client who came to me to cultivate their mediumship, and they recorded themselves in a trance experience, so and in an incorporated experience, and they sent me a video, and they wanted to know what I how I was interpreting this, and it was awesome. It was a really fun session. And so we spent a session watching the tape, and I felt like, oh, this is what like a sports coach is like, of watching game day footage, you know, and unpacking that, and me offering, okay, this is what I'm seeing in this. This is the being that, and it was partly, I will say that was it was partly my observation, just as a, you know, an expert doing this for many years that I have been, and what I was able to observe, but it was also partly my own mediumship speaking to me about these different components I was seeing. So, okay, in this moment, I'm seeing that a being come in that I'm witnessing doing this, and in this moment, I'm seeing another being. Okay, now I'm seeing this aspect of healing work happening, and I was able to help this person kind of come to a new understanding of some layers that they had not been previously aware of, that were moving through, that they were able to connect the dots of, oh, I've in my life I've always had this fear about this thing, and that totally ties in with this piece that I've been feeling circling for a long time. So it was, I think, helpful and illuminating for them. And again, I'm not, they came to me already practicing incorporation mediumship. That's not what I'm guiding them through off the gate. It was, the channel is already open. So we are now working with, okay, how to stabilize, create sustainability and regulation in that experience, both for them personally, and then also they, Kat, much like you mentioned, they are having that call to be able to offer it externally, and they want to make sure that they're doing it in a safe way, which, yes, I applaud.
Yeah, I love
Mm-hmm.
that, because, we both are, but, it's just like I'm such a geek on the processes, the hows, the whys, the how does it all work?
Mm-hmm.
How does it all fit together? What is happening in these experiences? And, and then the stabilizing and the structure and the systems that can be put into place so that we're capable of feeling safe to go into that space. Um,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, because it is, like you're saying, like sometimes things will show up, people will have different experiences, and uh, maybe see something that is looks scary, or feel something that feels a little overwhelming, or and
Mm-hmm.
depending on who your guides are too. Like, we all have these different guides and beings that are showing up, and they can show up in really interesting ways. And I've seen people where their guides show up and they look really kind of scary, but it's just because they're these ancient beings that happen to maybe have horns, or are very
Mm-hmm.
large, or dressed in a very strange way. And coming back to this experience on Saturday of having, having a spirit that I work with. And so when I do my healing work with people, I do a lot of clearing work and a lot of clearing and extraction work. And so of course I'm going into a healing session for myself. So I have this spirit that works through me now, is working with me, and is also doing extracting and clearing and cleaning and helping me move things. And yeah,
Mm-hmm.
it was physically, there's a lot of movement, there's a lot of sound, there's a lot of coughing or clearing and pulling things out of certain areas, and singing, really connecting to those songs that come through that help this work to happen. And it it isn't something a lot of times that maybe you've ever seen, you've never seen it before. You've never seen it in person. It's not like, and anything that you've seen that looks kind of like that is coming maybe from like The Exorcist or like a scary thing where like, oh, it's a witch or it's a demon or it's something really bad is happening. And so that is our immediate interpretation of when, oh wow, this is kind of like stretching me and opening me. Yeah.
Yeah. I think all of those are really, really important pieces that, again, there's um, a certain degree of resilience that really helps in creating comfort with channeling and mediumship work.
Mm-hmm.
Where it's like Kat, like you're saying, sometimes the beings, they are divine beings and they might be ancient or they might be connected with primal wisdom, which is
Mm-hmm.
inherently a little bit challenging to our modern culturally conditioned living in houses way of mother nature's wisdom is you know directly confronting to that,
Mm-hmm.
and primal wisdom directly confronting to that, and honesty and truth can be directly confronting and very uncomfortable if we are holding on to illusion, shadow patterns, ego patterns, conditioning, etc. So yeah, like core truth based in divine law, universal law, can feel incredibly uncomfortable. And so there is right. It's like, oh wow, okay,
Because
you're making me right.
they'll call
Um,
you out too, right? It's like
mhm,
we live in this like little self-protective bubble of like, I'm okay over here, and but if you start connecting to these beings, then they're like, hey, you're not showing up, you're not doing your practices, you're not being honest with yourself, you're not being honest with others, you're like
mhm,
all of these things are like, oh gosh, that was like a gut punch, because it's
yeah,
that truth that hits you in the core of your being where you're like, yeah, that's
yeah,
that's that's what I'm missing, or that's my work, or
yeah.
that's what I've not
And the
been
be
wanting.
and the beings who show up to support us in that, the beings that we're working with who abide by the divine law and the laws of love, like they only speak the truth. If you want a being who will lie to you and fluff your ego, like those are not divine beings that you're working with. Divine beings are right. So let's just be very clear about that. If you're looking to be flattered, that's not a divine being.
Okay, this is
But
a great
the
lesson in discernment as we go along here. Just like a little
yeah,
discernment tip, 101 discernment tip.
yeah, absolutely. If they're telling you uncomfortable truths, like it's much more likely that they're aligned with the divine. And and of course there are different flavors that wisdom comes through. I have found the dragons in particular to be like they drop truth bombs and sometimes they sting. But
Yeah.
it's with deep love. Like it's not ever trying to hurt our feelings. It's with deep love, and also like there is no mincing words in service to integrity.
Yeah.
And yeah, and so these beings that we're working with, they like we also have to remember they don't have to come work with us. These beings are choosing to come connect with us and to come support us and answering the call of our own prayers. And they're coming to collaborate both with us personally as an individual human person medium, but they're also working through us in service to the collective. And so they're showing up inherently with generosity and with care and with compassion and with love.
And
And
also
they don't
through
have.
our request, right? They don't have to,
Yep.
and it is through our request, you know,
Mm-hmm.
as you're saying, our prayers, our invocations, our devotion, our offerings, our lived actions
Mm-hmm.
every day that we are
Yeah.
choosing to evolve, choosing to heal ourselves, choosing to change the ways that we have been holding on to for a long time, choosing to be a better person every day, and that we are intentionally creating space for this work to occur and asking for this kind of support from the unseen realms.
Yep.
Yeah. So let's do that.
Yeah. Let's do that. Should we do that right now?
Let's do that.
Let's do it. Okay. Do you want to do a
um,
prayer invocation or just,
I just mean in general, but you can
oh,
do a
in
prayer.
general? Okay. Well, I mean, I'm feeling inspired to do that. Let's here.
Great. Let's
May
do
I?
that.
Oh, great. Let's do that real quick. All right. Okay. So I'm going to invite. That's funny. I feel like this podcast episode could very easily go a different direction. Um,
Okay. Well,
let's 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 hold on. Like, give me 1 second here. I uh maybe we need to do that at some point to do a full on mediumship
proper, proper
session
ritual.
episode.
Yeah, sure. We can
Proper.
do
Okay, let's bookmark that. I'm offering that to whoever is tapping me right now because like they are wishing to speak, and so I'm offering that as a. We will have a podcast episode at some point soon where we are opening the channel to offer transmissions. I agree to commit to that. Kat, sound good?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, okay, great,
So,
awesome. Thank
if
you.
you would like to participate in that, you can send us questions that you might have or things that you would love to know about in any of these realms that could be something that we could receive around. And you can send emails to shamansistersessions@gmail.com and reach out to us and let us know what your considerations are. And if we missed one of your big blocks where you're like, this is so uncomfortable, please let us know in the comments and reach out and share this with people that you know that maybe are on this path who've been like putting their toe in and pulling back and they're, I don't know, is this right for me? Because it doesn't have to be so painful and hard. It actually is
Mm-hmm.
such a beautiful path and has been, I mean, the greatest blessing of my life that has completely transformed everything about every part of my being and my life. And without a doubt, the great one of the greatest blessings I think I've ever received. Yeah, I can't imagine living life without this.
I'm so happy for you.
You're so cute.
I'm so happy for that and to hear that it's one of the greatest blessings of your life, and for all of you who are on that journey of cultivating, connecting, and cultivating with your channeling and mediumship practice. It can be tremendously helpful and enjoyable and rewarding. We're talking a lot about, oh, it's so uncomfortable, and oh, you have beings, you have to make sure that they're divine beings, and it's fun, it's beautiful, and it can be a incredibly like, I don't know, it helps with so many things. I can think of many times in my life where it has been my channeling and my mediumship practice that helps me feel safe, that helps me feel loved, that helps me remember how supported I am, that helps me feel not alone during really challenging experiences, that helps me trust, that helps me really take very big leaps of faith. And all of that has been supported by my mediumship practice. So I promise it is beautiful too. Even as we're talking about how uncomfortable it is, it is also beautiful and definitely worth it. And if you choose to develop that and cultivate that, which is probably why you're here listening or watching this podcast episode, um, it it will unfold in some very beautiful ways for you.
Yeah. Thanks, Michelle.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thank
So
you.
If you would like to come and study channeling with me, Open Your Channel begins April 7th. And this will be an 8-week course and will really give you a lot of the stabilization to be able to open and translate and transmit and find the next level of confidence in this work for you. So there'll be some links in the description, and also a free video series so you can check out some more information.
Awesome. Are you doing a retreat with that too this year?
I haven't 100%ed it on whether
Mhm.
it's happening or not. It depends on space and
Mhm.
our brother Will, if he's going to be moving or if it might be someplace else.
Sure.
So
Okay.
to be determined quickly.
Great. Awesome. Open Your Channel with Katherine Bird. Go check it out. And for me, if you're interested in working specifically with land and nature spirits, I have Sacred Ecology, which begins on May 1st. This is how to work with land and nature spirits. So this is for you if you're a healer, practitioner, ceremonial facilitator, retreat leader, homesteader, person who loves nature and wants to go beyond nature is neat into like collaborative, functionally purposeful relationships with Gaia and all her children. If you want to have meaningful, deep, connected, intimate relationships with nature spirits, if you feel the nature spirits are coming to work with you in your mediumship practice and you want to support that, then this course is for you. It's really fun. Yes, you will have to go outside. You might get muddy. You might get pooped on by a bird. I don't know, but it will be very beautiful. And you'll learn how to connect and communicate with nature spirits. There's a mediumship component that I teach as part of this course, and how to make offerings, how to do different land magic practices, and celebrate working with these beautiful divine beings.
Brilliant. All right. Thanks,
Yay!
Michelle.
Thanks, Kat.
All right, everybody. We'll see you next time.